Thank you very much. Yeah, we have a type of presentation. We'll start, and then my colleague will conclude. Yeah, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the University of Zambia Integrated Water Resource Management Center. We are a new center, so I just wanted to quickly show you what we have. We established in 2006. With the manpower provided from our 7 schools of the University of Zambia. The government of Zambia, after adopting the Integrated Water Resource Management Policy, as well as the Act, there was a need to build capacity in IWRM in Zambia and the region. And we had 3 research agendas as a start. One was on environmental risk assessment, looking at the mining activities on the Copper Belt and other areas in relation to water quality. And the other one was on the groundwater and interaction between groundwater and surface. And then the other one was looking at impact of climate change on the Zambezi River basin. And lastly, but not the least, we have included sanitation in our research agenda. And this idea came from our previous studies that we have done before, like the one in Kanyama in 2004, 2003 case study. And this is where we started looking at some of these toilets and their effect on the people and the environment. And of course, the people in Kanyama, they are mainly dependent on this type of shallow water. You can see the best one out of these would be a well with a wheel, a tire as an apron. And of course, that study indicated that there is a good connection between the toilet and the shallow wells, and that led to a lot of diseases for the community. And of course, you can see how some of these toilets and shallow wells are linked together in the sense that well number 1 here, depending on the movement of the groundwater, can be serviced by that toilet or this toilet or this toilet if it's going that way. So that was a real issue. And so we have also been involved in curriculum development, and we have a 1-year certificate for rural water supply and sanitation. And we also have 1-year diploma. We have a master's degree in the Master of Integrated Sanitation Management, and also we are trying to develop some curriculum in ECOSAN. And because of that, we are trying to build ourselves. We applied for the core, for the Water Resources Commission of Southern Africa, and we went for the 2 POCs, and one of them was accepted. And this project is the Sanitation Research Fund for Africa, and established under Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation grant to Water Resources Commission of South Africa. It's going to be a 2.5 years project, and it has been started. Okay, the focus area, pit characterization, and of course developing tools for that. These are the universities that are involved. Just quickly, University of Zambia is on this side looking at the pit characterization, and the other universities will be looking at dislodging and the beneficiation. And the title of ours is given here. In conclusion, this study will be taken in this area here. You can see Madiba, George, Kanyama, which is current study area, Chaisa, and the like. And now I call upon James, who is going to give us very quickly the resource-oriented sanitation practices in Zambia, a case of Kanyama.
Good afternoon. My name is James Tembo, and my presentation for this afternoon is on resource-oriented sanitation practices in Zambia, which is a case study of Kanyama compound. The presentation layout will be as follows. I'll start with the historical background of the resource-oriented sanitation in Zambia. Then I'll quickly go to Kanyama, where I'll describe some demographic and geophysical characteristics of the area, which my colleague has in a way already done. Then I'll look at the two cases of ROSA interventions that have been undertaken in Kanyama, namely pet emptying services and then ecological sanitation. So when you talk about resource-oriented sanitation in Zambia, basically, this has been existing in Zambia, especially in big areas. And most of them have been practiced informally through the use of both treated and untreated wastewater. So here, what I want to show you is just an example of a case where people are using wastewater to grow crops. What we are looking at here, point. Excuse me. How do you point? Pointing. Okay. So what we are looking at here are crops that have been grown using wastewater. And if you look at the type of crop here, you'd of course expect that the farmers would be very proud of their produce. But if you look at the farmers, one of them is here, she's hiding. The others, when they saw that we were photographing, they started running away. The reason why this was happening was that they knew that the type of wastewater they were using is untreated. So because of that, they knew that it was not right. That's why they were running. And unfortunately, most of the times for this type of farming, you will find that the farmers themselves do not eat what they grow. What they grow is meant for a market. Now, going to our research area, which is Kanyama, I think the area present has already indicated that this is one of the areas of interest. And the reasons why we are interested in this area is because it has a lot of sanitation challenges. It is located in Zambia, and Zambia is located in the southern part of Africa. And this research area is in the capital city of Zambia, which is Lusaka. Now, what makes this area very interesting in terms of sanitation? It's because of the demographical characteristics which compound sanitation challenges. When we look at what we have on this side, this is what is characteristic of Kanyama. You have high density housing units and you have very few roads to access the area. Then what you have is high density area, population is also very high. Then when you look at the number of latrines that you can call latrines, they are very few. Then going to the geophysical characteristics of the area is characterized by dolomite. Now, when you look at the facilities, I think this, my colleague has already shown the facilities that we have. So what we have like on top here, these are caverns within dolomite. You know that dolomite is normally associated with caverns. And because this area has a lot of rocks, you find that it's very difficult to dig pit latrines. And what happens in that case is where people have these caverns, that's where they will build toilets. And when that happens, what they are simply doing is they are depositing fecal matter directly into the water aquifers. So what are the implications and what are the consequences? When we talk about the few number of toilets, what it means is that situation leads to rampant open defecation. Then the situation is worsened when the toilets get full, because definitely when the toilets get full, then it means the people won't have access to the facilities. In that case, they will resort to open defecation. Then I've already mentioned the geology is porous. We said it's dolomite. Dolomite is associated with caverns and fissures, which act as migratory pathways for pollution or contaminants. So I don't have the results here with me, but in that area, Kanyama, when you get water samples, especially those from shallow wells, you'll find that the quality, say in terms of microbiological parameters, are almost equivalent to untreated wastewater, especially in the rain season. This situation results in a lot of enteric disease outbreaks, especially in the rain seasons. Now let me move to some of the interventions, resource-oriented sanitation interventions that have taken place in that area. Of course, maybe I should already mention that some have been positive, others not so much positive. So the first one I want to talk about is pit emptying that has been introduced in that area. I should mention that, you know, with the rocky geology that is there, it's difficult to excavate pit latrines. So because of that, there was already a tendency within the compound for people to dislodge the pit latrines. But then this was being done informally, where a person, without any form of training, without any knowledge about the hazards that are associated with fecal matter, would be paid some money to come and remove the fecal matter. And now, since it's being done informally, what that meant was whatever was collected from the pit latrines was discharged onto the streets, or it was buried in the ground. So there was a lot of contamination. Now, there is within the compound a trust that is providing the sanitation and water supply services. So that trust took advantage of what was happening and grouped these informal pit emptying, these pit empters, so that they could come up with a formal pit emptying group now. So using these people who now have been trained and are now given some incentives, they get paid, and then of course they are tested for diseases. Now these people are providing the emptying services formally. So what I have here is just an example of the team at work. When you look at the top part there, that is when they are starting to empty one of the pits. They have filled one of the containers, and then this is the type of transport they use because there are no roads. And then they charge about $35 for 12 of these containers. Above 12, they'll charge $50. Now, I've already mentioned that before we had pit emptying on an informal level. So what was happening there was when the pit contents are dislodged, they were being discarded indiscriminately. Now, with the coming of this form of grouping which is providing the service, what is happening is they have looked for ingenious ways of looking after the fecal sludge that is discharged. What has been done is that an underground biogas digester has been constructed. So all this fecal sludge that is collected from these pits is put in the biodigester, and what happens is in the biodigester, the fecal sludge will result in production of biogas. And now if you look at what is happening because of that intervention, what we have is this is the pit emptying, and after pit emptying, because of what is being done now, there is source of energy, we have source of manure, and apart from that, we have created jobs, we've reduced open defecation, we have reduced water contamination and environmental pollution, and we have also reduced on the enteric disease outbreaks. Then this is one of the gardens that is being piloted using the sludge from the digester. Okay, I'll skip the challenges. Now, the second intervention is ecological sanitation. A double vote system was piloted, and the reason for the EcoSan system was that this area, one, it's rocky, so it's difficult to dig pit latrines. Then secondly, we are talking about lack of space. We are talking about rocky geology, and then we wanted to address the problem of contamination of groundwater. So this is an example of a system that was constructed. What was noticed was that the reception for these systems was very high. But then this high reception was as a result of the lack of facilities, because later on we realized that if you look at the EcoSan concept, we are talking about agriculture and sanitation. We are talking about closing the loop. But then what happened was, because we are in a peri-urban area, which is a high density area, there was no space for agriculture. So because of that, what was happening was that after the toilets are used, the product that resulted had nowhere to go. So we had situations where, although now we are dealing with EcoSan system, pits were still being dug so that we could bury whatever had accumulated in the EcoSan facilities. And then, of course, there are other challenges that were associated with that. One of them being that the systems had some flaws with the design, and then there was a problem on the usage. As you can see here, an ecological sanitation system, you are not supposed to mix fecal matter and urine, but if you look at what we have here, these are mixed and the toilets are already full. Then to conclude on the EcoSan concept, the thinking is that for the concept of EcoSan in peri-urban areas of Zambia, for them to work, then there's need to have institutions on the ground to continue providing sensitization on usage of the facilities, to avoid situations where people start misusing the facilities, ending up with mixing urine with fecal matter. Then secondly, because when you talk about utilization of fecal sludge in agriculture in a peri-urban area, that is impossible because you don't have the space. So because of that, it's important that there is an institution on the ground that can be providing desludging services and then finding a market for the sludge that is produced. With this, je vous remercie.